How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So it seems the Microsoft earnings call is out, and with it we have a bunch of information on how Microsoft did this quarter, and it's worth going through because there's some good bits and bad bits. There's some stuff worth discussing. Overall, in terms of financial situation for Xbox as a brand, they are doing really well. They're in fact on record to make record-breaking, revenue, profits. It's insane. So in terms of what they're doing, it's working, and honestly, on paper, this looks absolutely fantastic. Underneath, if you start to dig in a little, that's when it gets a little bit messy, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I am happy with the way Xbox is going. I am happy in the direction it's going, but it is still worth discussing what exactly is happening, what is going on, and if you do find this information useful, informative, or simply want to help me hit that 7,000 subs, we are trying to get to 10,000 by the end of the year, but let's see if we can get to that 7,000 subs. So if you do find this useful, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell to stay up to date with all content I release. Okay, so Brad Sams here has basically a thread that details the actual earnings call. Now, Microsoft's earnings thread numbers should be released in about 10 minutes. Revenue was 61.9 billion and increased 17%. Net income was 21.9 billion and increased 20%. So that net is essentially your profit. That's insane, right? Microsoft 365 consumer subscribers grew to 80.8 million. Windows revenue increased 11%. Devices revenue decreased 17%. This is the one that you kind of want to be focusing on, right? That one is essentially like the Xbox hardware, accessories, and stuff like that. Tablets, phones, they still do Surface phones. So this is the one that you want to look at when it comes to the Xbox hardware, and that went down 17%. Xbox content and services revenue increased 62%, driven by 61 points of net impact from Activision acquisition. Now, this is really important, right? Because what this tells you is that without Activision Blizzard purchase, the outlook for Xbox as a brand would be extremely bleak. This is why, and for the longest time I didn't understand why Phil Spencer was bending over backwards to make sure this deal went through. This is why he did what he did. This is why he sacrificed the cloud, sacrificed some games to PlayStation. This is the reason why, because with Activision and Blizzard, Microsoft is in a much more financial stable place than they would be. I mean, there's no real way of sugarcoating this. Gaming revenue grew 51%, including 55 points of net impact from Activision acquisition. Again, Activision here driving it all the way. Without Activision Blizzard acquisition, this would look a lot more bleak. Xbox content and services revenue grew 62%, including 61 points. We've covered this over here. So again, this is just painting the picture that Microsoft really needed this deal to go through, and it pretty much explains why they were doing what they were doing. And for the longest time, I was wondering what was the end game here? Why did they sacrifice so much? Why did they give away so much? Why did they make so much concessions? This is why. This is why they did it. And for all the people out there that are saying that Phil Spencer is a has-been, he doesn't know what he's doing, my dude once again saved Xbox. It's really that simple, because without this acquisition, things would look a lot more bleaker. But there is a silver lining to this as well, right? There is actually a silver lining to this, but I'm going to get to that in a bit, so keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to stay up to date with all content I release. You might as well throw a like in as well, since you've made it this far. Devices revenue declined 17% as the company continues to focus on higher margin premium products. So what he's saying essentially here is that Microsoft is focusing on bigger things in terms of revenue gain, and as we can see here from Tom Warren, now Windows is back in third place. He loved to get that dig in right there. I know it's factually correct, but the way he loved to actually just stick that knife in, good old Tom Warren, he couldn't help himself. He just couldn't help himself to get that knife dug in right there. My true pony does love to I mean, he says he's not a pony, but we all know he's a pony, and he's going to get those digs in any point that he can actually do it. But as you can see from this, you know, the server products and cloud is clearly, you know, the winner. Office products, again, leading the way. I mean, these are obviously going to be the big money earners for Microsoft. Now, when we're looking at Windows, you can see it's almost at 6. We're looking at gaming has dropped down to 5.4. LinkedIn is at 4. Search and news advertising is at 3, but the one that we're looking at is devices, which will include the Xbox, and it's including like Surface tablets, maybe the Surface phone if they're still counting that. That's dropped down from 1.2 to 1 essentially, and that's not great. That in itself is not great. That's where you know that there's a little bit of a problem, because they're just not selling the hardware. Of course, if they actually started selling some of those limited edition consoles like the X-Men one, like the other ones that they've been showcasing, that people would actually pay a lot of money for instead of them just giving it away, maybe that would actually help sell consoles. Maybe they would, and before anyone says that's not their vision anymore, they're making consoles, it's clearly part of their vision. Stop deluding yourself, okay? But you know, if they actually money hatted some third-party exclusives for the console itself, that would also help them in a big way. Or maybe they're gearing up to get the marketing rights for GTA, however much that would cost, who knows. But as we go back to Brad Sams, he concludes by saying, overall, Microsoft had a solid quarter, but gaming without Activision at best was flat, and they were pretty much on par with breaking even, and that's the problem. They really needed this Activision acquisition, and it shows. But this is why, you know, Phil is paid the big bucks, because he had the vision, he clearly saw where the problems were, and to mitigate that, this was his get out of jail free card, and it's working. You know, when you're looking at the actual increase in revenue at 62%, you're looking at gaming revenue grew by 51%. Those are really big margins that shareholders love and keeps the dream alive. You've got Colt Eastwood here saying Xbox needs more games and way more often. And you know, he's right. At the end of the day, I can't remember really, outside of Starfield, the last game that came out for Xbox. That was in September. We got October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. You know, 7 months for a game. I mean, I know you got Powerboss, but I'm not going to count that. I'm talking first party games. You've got 35 studios and 7 months drought. That's, you know, and maybe there was something else after Starfield. I don't think there was, but correct me if I'm wrong. But that's 7 months without anything. So to me, there's a problem there. And if you've got this many studios, and before, I know people are going to jump in the chat and say, well, if it's so easy to make a game, make it yourself. Games shouldn't take 25 years to make. I get it, you want to play one game every quarter of your life, and that's fine. That's fine with you. That's okay. But they've got 35 studios. We shouldn't be waiting 25 to 45 years per game. You know, that's just my opinion here, right? Because this number, I'm not worried about this number. A lot of people are worried now that, you know, Windows has overtaken, and, you know, Tom Warren here is trying to get that dig in that Xbox is back down to 4th. This is Xbox's gaming division without no games, right? This is the gaming division with no games, and it is just on the heels of Windows. Once you start getting all the games like Avowed, Hellblade 2, Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, it's gonna propel insane. Like the end of the year financial report, the next quarter even, is going to show a much different picture. So in terms of actual gaming, Microsoft is in a really good spot. What they need to do is start delivering more. They need to start producing more, not having one game a year. They've been promising 4 games a year for a long time, and we still haven't got to that cadence. Once the actual, you know, Activision games start dropping into Game Pass as well, we should see a flurry of Game Pass subscriptions as well, because people are going to want to play those games. Once we start seeing that, you know, that gaming number of 5.4 is probably going to go to 6, 7, maybe even 8 by the end of the year when you've got all those games coming out. So in terms of the gaming division, I think they are in a very good spot, and this is largely due to Activision and Blizzard. So there is a bleak picture there that without Activision Blizzard, things would have been a hell of a lot worse. And, you know, Tim Stewart and Satya Nadella, who are already trying to get their teeth stuck in, you know, their fangs really dug deep, would have probably taken over all Xbox entirely. But because they're in this position right now, and obviously these people aren't stupid, they know that they don't really have the software right now in the first quarter or towards the end of last year. But, and I know Forza Motorsport came, but that came and died almost instantly. So that's another one that's not even worth talking about. I'm being realistic here, right, folks? I don't want to sugarcoat things, and I never do that for you guys. I be honest all the way. But with the rest of this year, we've got a lot of games coming, and that is going to push Xbox to new heights. And that is what Phil is banking on and hoping is going to be it. And with the help of games like Hellblade 2, Avowed, Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, you know, Towerborn, and more. You've got Hinterberg. We've got the Indie Showcase coming on Monday, which is going to probably showcase some more and maybe get a bit more hype. I know it's only idea Xbox, but there are going to be some games on there that kind of blur the boundaries between, you know, indie and AA. So that's all going to help. But the key one here that's of concern is the devices, and they need to fix that. They, you know, year on year it's declining, and there's really nothing they're doing to fix it. And releasing a next gen console is not going to move the needle, not in my eyes anyway. The handheld will definitely help, especially in places like Japan, where we've seen in recent reports that, you know, Gen Z is clearly moving away from the fixed console hardware and is preferring to go mobile. So having a handheld that offers something different to, say, the Asus ROG Ally or the Lenovo or the Steam Deck is definitely going to be the path forward. Getting people on board playing games through like the Meta VR headsets, having an Xbox kind of themed, you know, limited edition one that they've been talking about. This could also help people get onto that Game Pass track and get onto it. But again, that's kind of moving away from the actual device. The handheld is probably going to be their best bet in getting people on board. But they do need to do something because their hardware is declining year on year. And if it continues to decline, they're just going to not bother making consoles at some point. I mean, that's eventually the end game anyway, with everything going to cloud. But I thought this was interesting. It's not all doom and gloom. I mean, clearly Microsoft bought Activision for a reason, to keep the lights switched on, to keep the revenue coming in, and to keep the, you know, the prowling predators that are within Microsoft away from the gaming division, and leave Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, and Phil Spencer to their own accord to do what they want to do or need to do. And obviously Activision here is playing a big role in making this happen. We all knew it was going to, but I didn't really know it. I didn't know the impact of Activision was going to be this drastic. But, you know, it just goes to show that Phil's vision, his foresight is insane. And that's why he bent over backwards to pick it up. But I did want to add this one over here, because you can't go on a single day without IGN doing what they do best, trying to get the clicks. Microsoft's gaming revenue climbed significantly year over year, according to its Q3 earnings report. But the massive jump in takings is deceptive. Essentially, they're trying to word it in the most disgusting and humiliating and bad way possible. Most of it is just reflective of the addition of Activision Blizzard. Basically, they're saying without Activision Blizzard, Microsoft would be nothing and would have disappeared. It's essentially what they're trying to say in the most manipulative and upplaying way of it, to try and insult Xbox, to try and get those clicks. And as you can see here, the impressions is clear what they're doing. Already 107 tweets. They've got 385 likes, and that's probably going to increase the more. I think, Extension here has it pretty much on point. They're just mocking IGN at this point, because everyone knows, yes, the deception of buying another publicly traded company, going through the entire process, including an attempted injunction, clearly guiding investors on AVK and organic revenue, and then giving all that information out to the general public. Deception indeed. I mean, clearly IGN here are completely and utterly, and I rarely use this word, and I'm going to use it, and I know I could get in trouble, but IGN genuinely are a bunch of retarded idiots. And that is what they are. And I know I don't like to use that word, but when it comes to IGN, it kind of seems appropriate. It kind of seems right. Because calling them anything other than retards really doesn't work. And honestly, what else can you say about that? But going back to this numbers here, that 5.4 that everyone now on social media is trying to brag and say that Xbox is dead and all this, this is without them having any real cadence of releases. This is good. They are on the heels of Windows, which is massive, right? Massive. Once they're getting those, from May the 21st onwards, when they get those cadence of games coming out with Hellblade 2, Avowed, all of it. Don't forget Starfield still has their DLC to come as well. Once they get these all coming out this year, that 5.4 could be 6, 7, 8. Could even be higher. Because don't forget, these games aren't just going to be on the Xbox side only, they're on PC as well. And, anyone that has access to GeForce Now will also be playing these. And I'll have a GeForce Now guide as well, because you can actually play your Steam games or your Xbox Game Pass games, PC version, over the cloud on your Xbox. But that's for another video. We did test it out yesterday in my stream, go check it out. But yeah, so overall, this isn't all doom and gloom. I think, in a weird way, this actually paints a better picture going forward of where Microsoft will be in the next 6 months. And honestly, the future is bright. For everyone saying that Xbox is dead, far from it. Far from it. Because if this is what they have with no games for the past 7 months, imagine what's going to happen when they've got all the games for the next 7 months. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.